Okay, Ashley, let's start with you. And why don't you introduce yourself and say why you're running?
Yeah, sure. Well, first, thank you everyone for having me here today. My name's Ashley Proctor, and I'm running for Redmond School Board Position 1. It's been something I've wanted to do for a while, but because of starting my own family, career, and transitions, now is the time that I had that I can make this happen, thanks to my family and my community. Um, but a little bit about myself. I once was an at-risk youth, so I relied heavily on school supports and resources. My parents had me when they were teens. My mom was a single mom for much of my youth, and my dad was incarcerated for also a majority of my youth. So it was truly educators and community leaders that really took a special interest in me, to empower me to find my potential and um, lead me to a path of success that was unique for me. With that said, I eventually joined the military. I was 17 when I enlisted, left in between my junior and senior year, came back, graduated, and served in the Army for 7 years till I became my youngest brother's guardian who has a disability. So there is a lot of overlapping themes around passion and things that I am committed to. Um, Two of those things that are really important to me is community and service. And so, although I am no longer enlisted, I am still very driven by a sense of duty and commitment and responsibility to the folks within my community and within my country. I currently work as a social worker here for the county for folks with intellectual and developmental disabilities. So part of my experience is, focusing on mental health and special education supports to support um, a certain subgroup of folks, but also recognizing that we have marginalized communities that require different resources. And I think it is really important to focus on student centered and family centered supports because not every student needs the same resources to be successful. So I look forward to answering more questions and having you get to know me throughout this process. So thank you.
Thank you, Ashley. Joelle, let's come to you next. Introduce yourself and say why you're running.
Yeah, thank you for having me. I really appreciate it. My name's Joelle Beget, and I've lived here in Redmond since I was 2016. My husband and I have four boys. My husband works for ODOT, and I was a stay-at-home mom for a long time, but I've taken on a part-time job as the Crossing Church Children's Ministry Director. My husband and I do a small farm on the side. It's a great way to take away any free time you might ever have. I'm just kidding. Anyway, my oldest goes to Redmond High School, and I received my Bachelor of Science from what's now Corbin University, was Western Baptist College when I attended, in elementary education. I love teaching. I love children. I've always had a passion for kids. I think they're just the most important thing. And I just really wanted to have a practical way to serve the community in a way that lined up with my expertise and background. Once I took my job at the church, all of my kind of volunteering, serving opportunities kind of fell under the guise of, oh, that's my job. And so I've just really been contemplating how I could do that. And this seemed to be the best way. So I'm really excited about it. Thank you for having me.
Thank you. Amanda.
Yeah, hi, my name's Amanda Page. I'm running for re-election to Redmond School District Board of Directors, position number 3. I just finished off my 2-year term, and I'm really excited and looking forward to continuing the work that we've already done there. I work my paid position as a flight paramedic. I also do social responsibility and belonging work at Lifelight, and am involved in leadership there. In my spare time, when I have some, I really am engaged in our community and volunteering. Public education is a passion of mine. I truly believe it's the way out of poverty for a lot of kids. I come from a community, I'm from Chilcoin, Oregon. It's a really impoverished community in Southern Oregon where people are taught early on that you have to do well in school because that's how you get out of that poverty. And so I was really lucky. I come from a family that had a lot of supports. My mom was able to stay home with us part-time, and I did quite well in school. I was able to get scholarships and go away to college, but when I got there, was not really successful. I had an undiagnosed learning disability. And so once that was addressed, I was still struggling a little bit in college, but fortunately, I found this really great career as a paramedic. I started volunteering with the fire service, realized that I was really actually quite talented when it came to taking care of people. And that was great because it fell in alignment with this kind of theme that I have in my life of serving other people. So it was a really great match. I've been working as a flight paramedic for 13 plus years now, and in leadership, I've been about 5 years. I've also volunteered on the education committees and Senate Bill 13 committees for my tribe. I've written tribal shared history curriculum for first and third grade for my tribe as well. And so I really love education. I love public education. I love the opportunities that it gives for kids, and I'm looking forward to continuing to serve on the board in that capacity. Thank you.
Thanks, everybody. That was great to get to know you all. So let's see, we started with Ashley. So let's start with Joelle for this next one. What is the role of a school board, and how do you see yourself contributing in that role?
Good question. So the roles of the school board are basically to take care of policy, write policy that's appropriate for the community, to deal with the budget and make sure that that's accurately, correctly being taken care of, and to oversee just the basics of the ins and outs of what that community is doing. And I think the curriculum obviously is a big part of that. That's the part where you can be involved in seeing what works for our community. And I think that's where the great thing is of our small community and being able to see this may not be a good fit for Portland, but what's it look like for here?
Thank you. So we'll go to Amanda next. What's the role of a school board, and what is your role within that?
Yeah, the easier response is that we're in charge of the budget, we're in charge of hiring, firing, supervising the superintendent, we're in charge of policy development, and we're in charge of curriculum adoption. A lot of those things, are they're engaging and interesting, but really, when we come to look at all of those things, my role as a school board member is what's in the best interest of our students, what is going to make them the most successful and provide for the best outcomes for them, what provides for a safe learning environment for them. So really, my role as a school board member is making sure that all of the things that we do under that budget, curriculum, superintendent hiring policy really is focused on how do we support our kids, how do we support our teachers, how do we provide for the best outcomes for our students.
Thank you. And we'll go to Ashley next. The role of a school board.
Yeah, so the nuts and bolts of it are pretty simple as far as what everyone else has already shared, right? So and just to clarify, we don't write policy, but we approve policy, and it's really important for school board members to be able to interpret what certain policies are saying and how they would best be utilized within our school district. The other thing we oversee is hiring the superintendent. And so it's not to go in and go into schools and tell principals or teachers they're doing something wrong or right or anything like that. That is micromanaging, and that is not our role as a school board director. And it is really important to respect that chain of command, if you will. Being somebody from the military, it's important to go across the appropriate channels. And so the superintendent would work with us, and we would then be receiving updates from the superintendent around about the 13 schools in our school district. And if there's something that we feel like he's not doing, then we would find appropriate ways to hold our school district accountable within the policies that we currently have already approved. And then additionally, we approve curriculum. So each year there's a different curriculum that's being approved by the school board that would be reviewed and then put into place within our school district. And it's one of the school board's super abilities to be able to oversee what kind of curriculum our kiddos are receiving. But additionally, like there's still state policies and statutes that we have to follow. And so it's just navigating the ever-changing climate of our expansive government and the oversight that we all have. So thank you.
Thanks so much.
What are some of the biggest challenges you see facing Redmond schools right now? Amanda, we'll begin with you.
Sure. Over the last 2 years, we've had to make two pretty significant budget cuts, totaling, I want to say, around $7 million. It looks like we might be facing additional budget cuts from the federal funds that we're used to receiving. And this is particularly disturbing and scary because those funds really are directed at things that are really important for kids to be successful, especially our most vulnerable populations of kids. They have to do with nutrition services. Do our kids have access to breakfast and lunch while they're at school? Also have to do with IDEA, and do kids who have disabilities get access to the resources they need to be successful? And then additionally, they're really targeted towards low income schools. And so because of those groups that would take that hit in funding, our school is going to have to make up for that in our budget, because we can't just go without $9 million worth of funding in our budget. It just won't work for us. So I think over the next year, the way to address that is that if those funds are cut, we put a lot of pressure on our state legislators and representatives and say, like, hey, we need these things to make sure that our kids are successful. If it's not being provided by the federal government, it's our job to step in to make sure that our kids are educated well. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Ashley.
Yes, thank you. I agree that, yeah, currently the biggest issue that Redmond School District is facing is funding and budget cuts. Currently, the legislative sessions are occurring, so we don't really know how much we're going to be impacted from the federal to how much our state can realistically fund. And as Amanda had said, it's usually our marginalized populations that are going to be the most impacted, right? Because of nutrition programs that offer free breakfast and lunches for students that come from folks that are seen in the poverty line. Our kiddos with disabilities too. These kiddos are the last to usually get resources and the first resources to get cut, and it is incredibly important. It is imperative that the school board fight for our kiddos and for all of our kiddos, because it is, speaking from experience, it's really hard to concentrate on classwork when you're hungry or when your basic needs are not met. And so something that I am bringing personal passion to is to ensure that as we're getting these changes with policies, with budgets, that our school board is adapting to those changes with all of our kiddos at the center of those decisions and what we're going to do.
Thank you. Joelle.
Yeah, I agree with you, ladies, 100%. Obviously, the budget's a big concern. Everyone's uncertain how this is all going to go down. I would add to that, there's just kind of a general sense overall that I've picked up in my time of inquiry that there's just a lot of concern about distractions in the classroom. If we're talking about cell phones, if we're talking about students that are dysregulated, it can look a lot of different ways, but I feel like teachers are feeling a little bit under-resourced and that they're not able to always handle what's happening. Also, that kind of leads into the reality that we have this 11% cap on the special ed or disabilities money, and is that going to go up or not? There's that whole conversation. There's just a lot of different things that are happening that I definitely think are pushing back to the success of our students. Certainly, we all know the test score story, how difficult that is. I don't think any of us here are saying that because kids always test high that they're going to be successful in life, but it's definitely an indicator. So I think Oregon needs to figure out what the best protocol is on that.
Thank you.
Okay, What, if any, district policies would you like to see changed at Redmond schools? Let's start with Ashley.
Policy changes at Redmond School District. Coming from a disability lens, so special education, I would love to see the cap lifted. Currently, as Joelle had mentioned, it's at 11%. But that is a bigger state discussion. We can't really have that at the local level. Again, technology that is being discussed at the state. And so I think a lot of our bigger local concerns are kind of in this waiting period from the federal level on how we can address it. Because again, there's certain statutes that we were required to follow when we're making our policies. But I would say I would like to focus on policies. We're seeing an increase of escalated behaviors in the classrooms. And so it is immensely important to incorporate effective social emotional learning strategies within our classrooms. And I think that would be a really great starting point within our school district. And, you know, taking a really good overview and assessment of what is working now, right? Because we don't want to throw it all out, but what's working and what's not working, and see if we can effectively make those changes for our teachers and for our kiddos.
Okay, it's now Joelle's turn. What, if any, district policies would you like to see changed at Redmond schools?
Yeah, yeah, actually, I 100% agree. We definitely have a lot going on with the special ed, and that's a big component. Even in talking to Dr. Klein, that is something that we have to have answers for, because we have to be able to meet the needs of every student, and that is a large subset. So I think we have to look at policy that is going to help. It's going to help everybody, certainly, but keeping that lens and focus. And then, of course, in my opinion, if you look at some of these larger school districts, LA and Seattle, they are stepping away from cell phones. They realize that those are distraction. It's taking away from social interaction. Kids that are already on an island are getting more isolated. So I really think there's not a venue for at the high school level to have phones in hands. There's just no reason. Kids are operating on using AI and taking answers and cheating, and we're not doing them a service by giving them kind of this tool in their back pocket. We all survived through school when we had a school phone and an office or coordinator, and I think that we need to look hard and fast at that research that's out there.
And it's now your turn, Amanda. Would you like me to repeat the question?
I'm good. Thank you, though. Yeah, I think probably the biggest thing for me is about a year ago, this current school board removed, well, they didn't remove because we're not able to, but Oregon requires an educational equity policy that all schools adopt. Our board took what was, I think, a 2.5-page document and gutted it and took all the teeth out of it and left it to be one sentence about providing educational equity for our students. So if it were up to me, I would go back to that original version, which called out the fact that certain demographics have a significantly harder time being successful in school because they don't have access to the resources they need. We know that underrepresented and historically marginalized groups oftentimes are those that are going to require additional resources to be successful, as well as having barriers removed. And that was really the point of this policy. State legislators got together and said it's really important that kids have what they need, and that when they have barriers that they shouldn't, we remove them so that every kid can be successful. And the exciting thing about that is that educational equity isn't just about addressing a certain group of students' needs. What it really does is it lets us look through a lens of, okay, who's not successful right now, and how do we bring them up to a successful level? And we start adding in resources. And sometimes they're at the individual level, but sometimes it's the way that we operate as schools, as teachers. And when that happens and we change the way we're doing things in classes and we add resources and remove barriers, we get this really awesome thing that happens is that rising tide raises all boats. When we add those resources into the classroom, even kids that they weren't specifically designed for get benefit from that as well. So my answer is I would go back and I would really add the teeth back into that educational equity policy so that we can really start making significant strides towards making sure that every kid actually is successful.
Thank you. We will start this next question with Joelle. How do you measure success for your superintendent?
Yeah, that's really good. So, obviously a superintendent has to have a lot of qualities. They have to have vision. They're going to have to be able to show that they have, the plan for how to take what their district is dealing with and how to work with that. They have to have that cooperative spirit, be able to work with the school board, work with their administration and staffs, and have that perspective that, this is a team that needs to work together. And, just boldly making those decisions that and presenting those things that need to happen to the community and helping them see why it's so important. And then obviously, there's a kind of a chain of command and how it goes through and works out. And so those are just really important things, I think. And yeah.
Thank you. Amanda, would you like me to repeat the question?
No, I'm good. Thank you very much. This last year, we've adopted the Carver model within our school district, which essentially does this really cool thing where we tell our superintendent, hey, we hired you because we believe that you're capable, that you have a past track record that's of success, and we want to see you be successful, and we don't want to micromanage you. So what we're going to do is we're going to give you these executive limitations in these areas, and the areas range from nutrition services and how we deliver support services to students all the way to school safety, staff relationships. And we say, here is our goal for each of these. This is what we expect you to accomplish. And anything that is within these certain amounts of limitations is fair game. We want you to use your expertise, your creativity to be successful here and do it your way because we trust you. And so when we measure our superintendent, we have this every month. We look at a different area that we've asked him to work on, and we look at the standards and we say, did you meet this? Yes, you did. Great. We've taken all of that ambiguity out of it. It's a much less subjective process and more objective. So that's like the detailed answer of it. But really it's looking at everything from like, are you meeting student success records on the goals that we've set? How are your relationships with our staff? And as long as you're meeting those goals and you stay within this box, you're successful.
Ashley, you're next.
Thank you. I would say for the superintendent, again, we have assessments for each school. So there's 13 schools spread out from Tumalo to Terrebonne and then here within Redmond. And so it's important to measure all of the assessments of the schools and how the goals that are predetermined, how they're successful, right? Because the superintendent is responsible for all of the schools within the school district. And so ensuring that all the principals and their teachers within those schools have the resources they need to be successful. Of course, there's going to be outliers in certain circumstances that maybe the superintendent might not be as responsive initially. So I would look at, how they're handling problem solutions, because not everybody is going to be excited at what the superintendent is doing or communicating. But I think it's immensely important that they do so with integrity and respect and timeliness, and is adjusting and adapting to the feedback that they're receiving within those assessments, and then pivoting so that we can continue to ensure that each school is successful. And so those are some of the ways that I would measure the superintendent's success. Thank you.
Great. So I wanted to talk a little bit about, you all mentioned potential budget cuts at the federal level. Wanted to get a little bit more granular about that and talk about DEI programming, and that's been under attack at the federal level. What is your take on diversity, equity, and inclusion efforts in the Redmond schools, and what's your approach to this as a school board member? Let's see. according to my notes, we should start with Amanda on this.
Yeah, good notes. I think you're correct. Yeah, I'm a huge proponent of diversity, equity, and inclusion. At a school level, I think it looks very different than what people imagine in their minds DEI means. People have brought up, well, when people implement DEI process, it means it gives some people opportunities that other people don't have. But at the heart of the matter, what it does is it looks at this broad range of opportunities that we have, and it says, hey, who's having their access limited to these opportunities, and how do we increase access for those people? And so when this plays out in schools, it can be things like I had access to, it was called the SMILE program, Science and Math Investigative Learning Experiences, and it was targeted towards Indigenous kids and other BIPOC kids, because recognizing that they are really underrepresented in the world of STEM. And so once a week, I went to this science and math club. Once a year, we would go to Oregon State and visit the college campus. And then there were options for going to summer camps and learning about this. And the program was actually open to everyone, but it was specifically designed for those kids, and it was culturally appropriate. And what it did is it got this huge group of kids who otherwise wouldn't have looked at careers in STEM starting to look at it. And OSU has one of the highest engagement rates from that program of student enrollments of any other similar program in the state. So really, DEI work is about making sure that people have access across the board, that we're not limiting anyone, that we're allowing everyone to really tap into the things that can help them be successful.
Thank you. I think we're on to Ashley next for this one. What's your take on DEI programming as a whole?
I think words matter. So currently, right, diversity, equity, inclusion is a hot topic, and there's a lot of division on the importance of implementing DEI or taking it away. And I would just remind and encourage folks that constitutionally, we have a First Amendment right to be able to have free speech, and diversity, equity, and inclusion are really important words that when you look at how they're defined and how they're applied, to take that away would be diluting systems that call out differences. And we are revered as Americans to be a melting pot of diversity and to help one another and be inclusive. And I just, as a veteran, I really struggle with the idea of taking this away and dismantling it. And I think it dilutes a lot of our foundations that we have worked really hard to achieve. And if we're not being inclusive, then we're being exclusive. And who are we leaving out? And it's usually folks from marginalized communities, women, anyone who doesn't fit a very specific mold. And I would like to stand firm as a school district and as a community that we have more in common together, but we could still respect and appreciate differences and learn from one another. And it's truly together in that unified message that we're going to be able to move forward. So that is my take on it. And ultimately, I will protect every single kiddo in our school district because they deserve nothing less than that.
Thanks. Joelle, it is your turn.
Thank you. Yeah, I think when push comes to shove, I think we're all saying the same thing. We want every student from every situation to have every opportunity. I don't really think anyone is disagreeing with that. I don't think anyone from the top down, I'm guessing, I don't know, but I'm guessing from the top down, they're just saying we shouldn't only let somebody receive something because they're a certain skin color. That's sort of counter racist as it is. Like that's not what we want to be based on. If you have a legitimate need, it doesn't matter if you're blue, green, or purple. Like I don't care. We need to meet your need. I think what we need to watch the slippery slope is that we're not excluding somebody because of their skin color because they don't fit this list. If someone doesn't want to be inclusive, I would question the contents of their heart. I would question who in their right mind would care if you had a disability or you had a different socioeconomic standing or you had a different skin color? I mean, that's something that I'll never understand. I think we have to watch this and just serve every child. I think where there's the conflict and what we're seeing in our culture is that we don't always agree on how to implement that. And so from my perspective, when we're looking at every single student and that classroom is built of all the different varieties of kids from every different facet possible, they're going to learn it doesn't matter who I am, what family I'm from, how much money I have. I'm going to be taken care of because I am valuable. So I think I truly believe we all have the same heart about this. We just don't always see eye to eye on how to implement it.
Okay.
Sorry, Nicole, thank you. This next topic you have mentioned in previous answers, but with the bill going through the state legislature related to cell phones, we wanted to know what your thoughts are on the use of cell phones in schools. We'll begin with Ashley.
Thank you. Yes, so it's being currently discussed at the state level, but current usage of cell phones, I think I was the last generation to not have cell phones in school, and I survived, and it was great. I do want to validate though that there are students, in particular middle school and high school students, that would feel challenged in this transition. And so I respect that there are some transitions that are going to be difficult for some. I also want to acknowledge that with the increased active shooter drills and concerns around safety in schools, that some parents might also feel a little stress and anxiety around not being able to reach their students. And so I think it's even more important for the school board to consider those challenges and stressors and be able to talk to families and students openly about their concerns and see if we can make this transition as smooth as possible. But I do agree with the sense that cell phones in school, you're always going to be diverting your attention or having your active mind temporarily like not focused. And so I think to mitigate distractions, it's important to kind of simplify the classroom, take out technology that is not necessary as a tool, because again, we do live in a technically advanced time. So to say like we're never going to use technology is just not realistic, but I think it's important to kind of shift the use of technology to be an active tool and how to use it, but also decompress and or kind of limit that usage as well to be so socially connected all the time. Thank you.
Joelle.
Yeah, I mentioned this earlier. I just feel like when I've taken general opinions from the community, I'm sensing that parents are ready for a change. I'm hearing lots of staff, lots of staff. My son goes to Redmond High School. He's a freshman. He said on every wall there's the cell phone slot. He said nobody puts them in. From what I'm hearing from teachers is it's just too much work. We're here to teach. We're not here to police, you know. And so I think if we actually go the route of making cell phones, you know, in the backpack only, or, you know, whatever that would look like, I think we're going to have to really look seriously at some sort of oversight committee that's not the teachers, because it's simply not their job to just take on one more kind of bad cop type situation. But I do think that the benefits do not outweigh the hazards that they're causing. Hazards is a strong word, but I think the distraction factor is significant, and I think we're doing a disservice to our kids. And I think there's a time and a place. Even as adults, we know how much we struggle with just picking up that phone for no reason. It's hard for us to sometimes resist that, even harder for kids. So I think we need to create what the community wants. I know what I'm hearing from the people I've talked to, but this is a really big decision, and I think we need to see what fits our Redmond community.
Amanda.
Yeah, I think it's really easy to make like a gut reaction of like intuitively it speaks to me to not have cell phones in the school. But I also recognize that like I represent like one mom of one student in one very specific situation. And so before we make these blanket changes or statements about what is or isn't best in our schools, I think we really need to ask ourselves like, one, would a cell phone ban, who would that disproportionately affect? And if there is a group of people that it does, can we mitigate that? Are there ways that we can adjust the policy so that it doesn't affect people more negatively than other groups? And then also like ask ourselves like what assumptions are we making about cell phones and who's using them and what they're using them for, if they're using AR or if they're not. And so I think the answer to these things is really spending some time to talk and engage with our communities. We have a tendency to talk to people who have similar ideas, viewpoints, life situations as we do. And so we think that we know the whole story by talking to the people around us, but really we're oftentimes just reinforcing what it is that we believe because they have similar experiences. So I think this is a really good opportunity for us to engage with our local community, talking to parents, students, teachers, principals, and having that discussion about like, okay, what can this look like? What would work for the most amount of people? And if there are people who are more negatively impacted by this than other people, what are the ways that we can do to mitigate it so it does work for every student?
Thank you.
Okay, last question is, what sets you apart from the person running against you? Let's start with Joelle.
Yeah, thank you. You know, I wear my heart on my sleeve. What you see is what you get. I'm the same person behind closed doors as I am everywhere else. I do my best to live for an audience of one. I am a person of leadership. I love to see things happen. I love to see things improve. I love to see things get better. And I feel like I've been gifted with a background that has allowed me to have practical experience in school. I was able to, live out firsthand, IEPs and classroom management and parental involvement and administrative pieces. There's just so many things that you gain from living that out. And so, coming to this reality of the school board and what I can bring to the table, I just want there to be transparency. I just want the community to know that they're not just, yeah, we don't just invite you, like we are asking you to be here, part of this. Like, don't leave this to 5 people, like be a part, be involved. I just want to advocate for everyone recognizing how important it is that we all care about school boards and students' educations and their outcomes because it affects our whole community. It's so foundational. And so I just am looking forward, if I'm given the opportunity, to lead by example.
Thank you. And this next question's for Amanda. What sets you apart from the person running against you?
Yeah, absolutely. I think I have a deep love of public education. You know, when I got to enroll my daughter in kindergarten public education, I was very excited about it. I come from a family of educators. And I just believe that really great public education creates communities that we all want to live in. We're educating our future community members, actually kind of our current community members. So I'm really deeply passionate about public education, really protective of it. Whereas my opponents talked about school vouchers and being a proponent of it, I'm really not. I want things that strengthen public education and not take away from it. Additionally, and it doesn't just set me apart from my opponent, but kind of the rest of the school board. When you look at it, a lot of the people on there have a very similar shared lived experience. I don't. I came out of a town that was really entrenched in poverty. I grew up in an indigenous community. I'm an enrolled member of the tribe. I'm a single mom. I know what it's like to live really paycheck to paycheck or even sometimes going into debt while you're trying to make ends meet. I think I have a lived experience that really is shared with a lot of people. And so I think it's amazing that we have the perspective that my opponent has on the board, but I think it's already there. I provide a different perspective that's not there from anyone else who's on our board. I'm able to tap into communities that aren't just similar to mine. I have friends who are across the board. I don't believe that my opinion is always right. I think that the right opinion is the one that benefits the most people. And so I'm really deeply curious. And I think that shows on the board. I don't just make split second decisions based on what I feel is right or anything like that. I really take the time to say, like, what is best for our kids? How is this impacting people in ways that I might not anticipate? So yeah, I would say that's how I'm different.
Okay, and then Ashley, what sets you apart?
Yeah, thank you. So I would say, in comparison to my opposition, I am somebody that has both lived and professional experience working deep within the public education system, but also just within a lot of cross-sectional human services systems. So I have kind of inside purview to the barriers that a lot of our families also face. Additionally, I have a young kiddo in the school district, currently in first grade, and so as a parent, I'm kind of growing through this alongside other parents and families that are navigating K through 12 options. As someone who was deeply inspired and empowered to be where I am today because of educators, I also come to this with a really unique collaborative lens. Um, I I don't believe any one individual's success comes just from that one person. I do see like these cross systems are made possible because of multiple players, like multiple folks at the table. And so I would like to be one of those folks, fiercely advocating for maybe the experience and the perspective that isn't always reflected. Um, you know, I believe in equity, which my opposition and I have gone back and forth with defining those terms of equality versus equity. And there's been some confusion around the two terms, but I always come up with examples of why equity is more empowering for each individual student as opposed to equality. And again, I really bring that person-centered or student-centered lens to the table.
Well, that's the end of our questions. I'd like to give each of you a couple minutes to just address anything that you feel passionate about that we might have missed. And then again, restate to viewers why you're the candidate for the position. I believe Amanda will start with you.
Perfect. Well, again, thank you again for having us here and just giving us a platform to share where we're coming from with the people who will be voting for us. So again, like I just want to express that I have a really deep heart for community service and for empowering our community and for building a really beautiful community. Redmond is a fantastic place to live, and the almost 10 years I've been here, really deeply engaged with it, and I enjoy that work a lot. I enjoy my work on the school board. We've done some incredible things over the last 2 years. We've worked incredibly hard towards improving early literacy in kids, and we're starting to see testing scores go up on the day-to-day progression. We'll find out here next fall how we did actually over the course of the year, but we're really optimistic about that. We've really moved the needle on graduation rates and attendance. So although I think we would all agree that our state is not where we would want us to be when it comes to education. Our district has made a really concerted effort towards moving in the direction we do want to be, and I would love to continue on with that work. I like to tell people that I really stand on three things for our kids. The first is resources, making sure that every student has the resources they need to be successful, and every teacher has the support they need to help the kids be successful. I believe in leaving culture wars and politics out of the school board. If I had a motto, it would be make school board meetings boring again. I don't want to focus on culture wars. I want to focus on student outcomes. And then finally, I really have this deep passion for making sure that when every student walks down the aisle at graduation, they're walking towards a future that they are inspired by, that they're really excited to go forth to, whether that is they've graduated with job skills where they can enter the market right away, whether they are headed to a trade school or off to college. Whatever their path is next, I want to make sure that they're inspired and really truly prepared for it. So again, I thank you guys for your time. Listeners, I thank you for your time. Yeah, thanks.
Hey, thank you, Ashley. Ashley, you are next.
Yes, first and foremost, thank you all for the opportunity. Those were some great questions, and it's really important that voters get information directly from the candidates. So thank you again for this opportunity. Again, I would just like to say I'm not from here. I've met a lot of really passionate Redmond folks that are like, I was born and raised here and I've lived here my whole life, and I love that. Um, as a vet, it's not uncommon that, you know, we kind of migrate. And so home is where my heart is, and my heart is here in Redmond, and my commitment is here in Redmond to our kiddos. And, you know, a few of the things that I really hope to bring to the Redmond School Board is building bridges and really focusing on collaboration with, you know, folks within our school district, but also folks within our community. Central Oregon is really unique as like our population is statistically higher educated. And so I really think that there are some untapped resources and opportunities here that we haven't yet collaborated on that I would really like to bring into the school district. Additionally, Deschutes County is the fastest growing county in the state. And so Redmond is feeling a lot of that expansive growth. And so, you know, we have a responsibility to balance both like opportunities, but smart, transparent budgeting commitments, as we all know, and as we've discussed earlier. It's not like we have a plethora of funding coming in and there is some budget cuts and concerns, but I really think we can get creative with how we continue to resource our schools and our classrooms. You know, lastly, I just want to say that we are having a lot of division around banning books. And as someone who used books as a gateway to explore new worlds, new thought process, or creating visions for myself that I, in my unique familial circumstance, was not exposed to, I appreciate having a plethora of book options, because you never know which book is going to reach a student or a person. And we already have checks and balances within our school district to make sure it's age appropriate for the students that are seeing those books. Additionally, banning books has never made someone think critically about the information that they're reading and accessing. So if we really value critical thinking, we would actually engage in discourse and challenge these views that folks are having that feel maybe it's indoctrination or that it's not appropriate. Um, we aren't able to think differently or challenge our worldviews if we're always limiting our lens and closing off really important perspectives. And so again, I really want to focus on increasing critical thinking through intellectual freedom. You know, ensuring that as we're growing as a county and as a city, that we are being smart and forward thinking about the vision that we have for Redmond and our school district, and really focusing on multiple pathways of success for students. Myself, I didn't go to college right after high school. And if I had to go back, I wouldn't change a thing. And I really think it is important for students to recognize that there are multiple pathways to success, and we can give each student varying opportunities to meet them where they are. And meanwhile, increasing communication so we can connect with our families who maybe are feeling fear or uncertainty around miscommunication and misinformation. So I really would like to be a strong addition to the school board to continue these conversations and advocacy. And thank you so much for your time.
Thank you, Ashley. Joelle.
Yeah, I just want to sincerely thank you guys for having me today. It's really been a delightful time. Thank you. I just wanted to address two things. The first of which Amanda mentioned that we were different because I supported school vouchers and she didn't. But I would like to point out that her daughter attends RPA, so that is a school choice issue, and that's totally fine. I support that. I think that's great that she can do that. My children, 3 of them, do not attend the public school system. So again, we're doing what's best for our kids. And so I just want us to know that we all value school choice. It's a very important thing. Secondly, in terms of the banning books, to my knowledge, there haven't been any book bans in Redmond ever. I don't even think it's a local issue right now. I think that this is a Supreme Court issue that we're seeing rise up. But in terms of our local place, I don't think anyone's looking to ban books. I haven't sensed that. If a parent is uncomfortable with something, they will take care of that for their child. But I don't think anyone's trying to stop anyone else's children from receiving what they want them to have. So I do think that's a parent choice. I hope it's clear that my motives and my intentions are to serve my community. I am looking for that opportunity in a way that I feel like I can best give back. I have a history of community service, including Edwin Brown, and I just really would enjoy the opportunity to do what I could to support and bring to the table a cooperative spirit that wants to work with everybody there. If I am elected to the board, I would focus on a quality education for every student. This is what we're here for. We're here for the kids. It's not about the policies. Certainly, Amanda, not about the culture wars. I totally agree. We're here for the kids. We need meaningful teacher support. We need minimization of classroom distractions. We need important curriculums that are science and research based. We need policies that are common sense and elevate the educational outcome for everybody. We need to create an environment for our community and parents that is transparent and people are able to see that their opinions valued. We need to take into consideration what people are saying and what they're hearing and what they're experiencing and figure out what we need to do for Redmond. It's going to be different than other districts, naturally. I want to listen and support to teachers. I want them to know that we're on their side, that they are working in the trenches, and we are here to do everything in our power to make their jobs as impactful and meaningful and to feel supported. It's so important. And then just the creative solutions that we need to be able to meet the demands and the hurdles we're facing as a district. We have to come to the table and put our heads together and work together to make this happen. So I ask for your vote and I appreciate your time and energy. And I thank you for having me. And I thank you to the community for taking the energy to talk and be a part of this. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Jill. That concludes our endorsement process. I really want to thank all 3 of you for putting yourself out there, being willing to put yourself in a position to help kids and serve the Redmond community, and again survive the slings that come on through social media and public scrutiny, and for being there for the community. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you so much.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.